Joining me now in GB News' Westminster studio is royal biographer Tom Bower and my panel, senior reporter at Guido Fawkes, Ellie Wheatley, and the historian and broadcaster, Dr. Tessa Dunlop. To you first, Tom Bower. This is seismic.
Oh, absolutely sensational.
This is absolutely huge.
Without precedent. And it really is the signal that the King realised that the monarchy is fighting for survival. I think in the court of public opinion, there's so little sympathy for not only for Andrew, but also for the whole way the royal family has handled over the last 6 years the Andrew problem, that he had no alternative but to do the ultimate nuclear option of consigning him to oblivion.
He's often to be known as straightforwardly Andrew Mountbatten. I got my names here, thank you. He's going to be called from now on, losing that name altogether, Mountbatten Windsor.
Well, yes, I think the real essence of it is that from now on he should be invisible. I mean, I think what the King now expects is that Andrew will no longer appear ever in public. There'll be no photographs of him.
Yeah.
He will not be riding through Windsor Park either on a horse or in his Range Rover.
Yeah.
And he will literally be forgotten. I mean, that is the purpose of today's operation.
And what's happening here, he's no longer called Prince Andrew. He also loses other titles. Of course, we know he's not called... Well, he's losing the Duke of York, the Earl of Inverness, Baroness Killerley, and the style His Royal Highness. He's also...
Well, he lost that from the Queen.
Yeah.
He lost that originally.
That's gone already.
But I mean, I think what's triggered all this is that the King feared not only the wave of public opinion, but also the threat of a debate in Parliament. And that would have been horrendous because there are a large number of Republicans in the House of Commons, and they would have undoubtedly wrecked the compact between the people and the monarchy.
It was being frayed, wasn't it? He also loses the Order of the Garter, the Knight Grand Cross of the Victorian Order. What are these baubles? Are they important?
Of course they're important. They're all part of the tradition and history of Great Britain. They are part of the essence of why we are different to every other country, and very, very important as well. But there's never been a situation in modern times, and not perhaps back in history either, where a member of the royal family has gone on to a television programme and deliberately conspired to lie. I mean, that, in the end, is what it's all about.
And that's been... I mean, he denies wrongdoing. He would deny lying, I expect. But, of course, that's shown by the contact he had with Jeffrey Epstein after the end point, which he told Emily Maitlis on Newsnight.
Exactly.
The word censure leaps out for me from the Buckingham Palace statement. Let's read that again. It says, these censures are deemed necessary, notwithstanding the fact that he continues to deny the allegation against him. That's about Virginia Giuffre. The word censure means expressing severe disapproval, especially in a formal statement. This is a statement of severe disapproval. That's as big as it gets from the King, right?
It is, but I mean, you've got to remember as well the context as well. Though for the King, this is clearly an emotional moment. It's his brother, his family... And he is a man who really dislikes confrontation. He's a man who, on the whole, has shied away from being nasty to people in public, especially. In private, it was different. But in the end, I think that he also, because he had been bereft of good advisors in Buckingham Palace, let alone in Clarence House for some years, finally the advisors, I also think probably from the Cabinet Office as well, he has been told there's no choice. And he would have had, I think, an amazingly emotional confrontation with Andrew to tell him the game's up.
The game's up, because it had to be. We got wind of something was up, didn't we, in Prime Minister's Questions last week, when Sir Ed Davey asked about should we take some action to look at this lease on Royal Lodge. And the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, came back and said he welcomes all scrutiny of the work of the Crown Estate, which was basically saying yes to that. And I was struck by the night before he'd had an audience with the King, the usual audience. I wonder whether this is part of a conversation.
I would have thought so, but the idea of Ed Davey triggering anything historic, I'm afraid, leaves me absolutely baffled. But, of course, the King would have talked to the Prime Minister about it. That is actually what the weekly conference is all about, and no notes or anything. And he would have been told what the public mood is. And it was just a matter of confronting Andrew with reality.
We understand this was... this initiative was initiated by the King Charles, and his brother has not objected.
That's a polite way of saying he had no choice. What it still leaves, if you don't mind me, what happens to Fergie? I mean, she's losing her home. The idea of her moving into an estate somewhere on a royal estate is just ridiculous. She's a woman who just can't control her expenditure, but clearly has to be brought somehow under control, as does Andrew.
Now, we're learning more facts as we speak about what's happened about an hour ago. The daughters of the son of a sovereign, that's HRH, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, they retain their titles because of the George V's letters patent of 1917. Can you fill me in on what that means?
Well, I think in the end what it boils down to is this, that why should the daughter suffer because of the sins of the father?
Yeah.
And that's fair enough. And wherever you go in town, people say that they're very decent girls, women now. They have only the best of intentions and they shouldn't be humiliated. And I think that's fair enough.
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private Internet Access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cyber criminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C-18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private Internet Access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GB News discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GB News to start protecting yourself digitally today.
We understand, we haven't heard yet from Downing Street, but we understand from sources that the government has been consulted and it is seen to be constitutionally proper for the government to be consulted, but equally it's for His Majesty to take this action. And so it looks like the government supports what's happened here.
Well, I think the whole point there is, you see, that the government didn't want to take the initiative. And the whole point last week, when all this blew up after the Mail on Sunday's revelation, that the government and politicians always said, this is up to the palace, this isn't for us to intervene. And certainly it is for the king to decide, because it's not for the government to interfere in royal matters. So I think in that sense, it's proprietary that the king should make the decision. But undoubtedly he had the advice of the Prime Minister and many others that the position was unsustainable.
Where will Andrew go, do you think? You must be aware of all the different properties the king has on all his sites.
Well, I think it would be very difficult for him to stay in Windsor, because I think very much the force behind this has come from Prince of Wales William and his wife Kate. I think they just didn't want to be neighbours to Andrew.
Because they're moving nearby, aren't they?
They're moving nearby to Forest Lodge, and they didn't want to bump into him. And therefore that was terribly important to get him out of the way. I mean, the natural thing for him to do would be to exile him to an island in Scotland, into some terrible castle, and make sure he couldn't leave.
It's been reported tonight that Prince Andrew will move to a property on the Sandringham estate in Norfolk, and that's privately funded by the king.
Well, there we are. That's it.
And that's of course where the Duke of Edinburgh.
There are a lot of houses on the estate, and that's exactly right.
A long way away from private.
A long way from that, and it's impossible for private photographers or paparazzi to get anywhere near him.
He won't be on his uppers. He'll get an income from the king, we understand.
Well, yes, but I mean, he'll get an income. He won't starve, and nor should he. But the problem really is, although Sandringham has a very good partridge shoot, I can't imagine he'll be invited to that.
Yeah.
But I think the real problem for him is what does he do? He is a man who seeks publicity. All the film we're now watching of him is always standing in the spotlight.
Yes.
It's congenitally very difficult for him.
He loves being Prince, right? He loves
exerting himself. It's going to be an amazing shock for him. I mean, how does a man cope? And of course, there will be people tonight who will say he's been punished enough. We've got to look after his health. We don't want some terrible, terrible repercussion of a man going over the edge. So I think now he's done the honest and decent thing. He's accepted it's all over. He should now be allowed to disappear without any more recrimination.
His wife, estranged wife, I think they are divorced, but they have a relationship living together. She will make her own arrangements, we think?
No, I think they'll have to find something for her. I mean, she's incapable of making arrangements and financially couldn't do it either. No. So I think a 2-bedroom flat somewhere in Clapham is the right place for her.
Well, I think you're joking there. But surely she wants to be near Andrew. They seem to get on, or don't they get on? I don't know.
They do get on. It's a strange relationship. Of course they'll find somewhere, perhaps in Norwich or something, where she can go. I mean, we can't be so heartless.
No.
I mean, she, in the end, is the ex-wife. She's part of the family. I'm sure they'll find something suitable for her, on the promise that she also stays quiet and doesn't write a book or anything like that.
Now, we understand from sources that this is all due to the serious lapses of judgment that has been shown by Andrew. And this decision has the support of the Prince of Wales. But as you were implying earlier, he's been a driving force behind it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that one of the great problems has been for Charles, the king, that his son wants a completely different monarchy. He wants to modernise it, he wants to reduce it, he wants to strip it of a lot of the chivalry and traditions which Charles has done his best to nurture. So I think there's a great clash there. But the one thing which is unfortunately always uppermost in our mind is the fact the king is ill. And we don't know exactly the fate of the monarchy.
Well, now, Prince Harry gave an indication in those remarks last year.
And that was a pretty heartless thing to do.
Yes, it was, because it was...
Exactly. But that is the reality. So, and Prince William comes to the monarchy with a different sort of background than his father, in all sorts of ways. So I think that what's really happening is that William and Kate have forced the pace on this. The king had no choice. They want very much to be free of scandal. I think they'll do the same to Harry and Meghan. They'll probably strip them of their titles. They want a clean, untrammeled, impeccable monarchy.
Do you put any blame on the late Queen Elizabeth II, who is dear to so many hearts in this country? But should she have been firmer when she had the moment? But it's hard.
I know what you're saying there, and it's easy to blame the parents. Don't we all blame our parents? But the truth is that she was a very, very dedicated monarch. She worked terrifically hard. In those days, children were looked after by nannies. It was a completely different... And the truth is that Charles and Andrew are such different people. And Andrew just was very differently brought up than the others. And it was a terrible mistake, probably, to send him to Gordonston. He should have gone to Eton, and he would have had proper friends, had proper discipline.
Because Gordonston's a harder place to be.
It was ridiculous of Philip's idea that somehow they should all be toughened up. Yeah. That was silly. And therefore, to some extent, of course, you can blame the Queen, but, we can always blame our parents. In the end, nobody forced Andrew to go onto a Newsnight and lie.
Apart from his own vanity, to talk about his put to the palace side. And arrogance. I mean, he thought he could boss around a rather good journalist called Emily Maitlis, and it all went wrong.
He thought he could just lie his way out of it, and that is really why he's being punished, and rightly so.
And where do we put this in the crises our royal family has faced? Well, where does it sit? You've got the abdication, of course. Nothing beats that.
No, it doesn't beat the abdication. I think what it's done is it nipped it in the bud before it's too late, just like the abdication was. He had to go, Edward, because that was the only way to solve the problem. Once he went quietly, but in the aftermath, there were problems. But the problem is for the king, it's not just Andrew. There's Harry and Meghan out there constantly appearing in the media, constantly making problems. So, it is a very troubled time for the monarchy.
And there could be books in it. There could be
there'll be books in it. I'm writing one, don't worry. There'll be books in it. There'll be Andrew and well, he'd have to find a ghostwriter. Of course he'll be tempted, and that'll be part of the deal. There'll be no income, no home, nothing if he breaks the terms of utter Trappist silence.
He may get some money back from the Royal Lodge he spent on.
Well, I think money is the least of the problems at the moment. I think the most important fact is that Fergie and Andrew must absolutely disappear from view. The whole sensational events must now be buried, and that is the only way for the monarchy to survive.
And just very finally, this is the monarchy trying to save itself in your world.
I believe, the monarchy's popularity has fallen dramatically from it was 80% in favour of the monarchy about 20 years ago, now just barely above 50%. It's a very different country than it used to be. Young people are not that keen on the monarchy. They don't understand. They don't associate themselves with an old king. They might with William. And therefore, it's a huge challenge. And William has got to face it.
And this is the biggest crisis since the Charles and Diana divorce, I suppose.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
30 years.
Absolutely.
Tom Bauer, thank you for joining us. Really good to see you in the studio. Thank you.